Welcome to the Witchy Web We Weave. My name's Alex.
I'm Alara. Hi.
And this is kind of our little intro to YouTube to explain kind of why we're here, how we all started, and just starting there, and we're going to go a little bit more about our schedule, things like that, and we're just going to start right off.
We're just doing a witchy meet and greet.
Pretty much. Alright, so, want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, my stuff started, I guess, I was raised Catholic, fun fact. Dad was Catholic, Mom was Christian, fun times. Dad really liked magic shows though, like he was really charmed.
I didn't know you liked magic shows.
Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, all that stuff. Supernatural fan since day one of that show.
Yes.
And then from there I was just kind of like, I read Harry Potter while it was still being written. The first one came out while we were still in elementary school.
Oh, I know.
You know,
not to date ourselves or anything.
So that's kind of where I think a lot of people started, just fictional stuff, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
me
then
too.
the only other thing that really came from my dad, ironically, was he's really big into astrology. Like, religiously, he reads the astrology section every day in the newspaper to this day. Like, he still gets the newspaper because of that. Like,
Is it sad that it makes me love your daddy more?
yeah, you know, like, he's weird. He's still Roman Catholic, but he likes his astrology. Like, I don't know. I guess. Why not? And then I feel like there's things I'm missing myself, but from there, the next kind of moment I remember is buying my first room set at Barnes & Noble in, I believe, high school, Southern California. I was with a friend. We were shopping. I don't really know what happened. I don't know if I just saw that and it looked cool from like a historical sense, or I want to know if it worked, or I was being rebellious. I don't even remember. I bought the set. It was, I don't know, $20. And I still have it. And I'll probably bring it down for one of these videos when we're talking about runes. But that was like the biggest kind of moment where I actually physically bought something. It wasn't a book or anything. It came with a book, really good book. But that's kind of where it started for real. And then kind of along with that, Wikipedia.
I know. Right before you get into Wikipedia, it's actually really kind of a key thing with us, with what we're going to be doing. It's really important to note that mainly I'm a tarot reader and Alex does runes. So a lot of our upcoming videos are probably going to be regarding tarot and runes, which we'll get into in a little bit, but just because we're also probably going to do a lot of videos on kind of a lot of differences and interesting things that happen when you get a rune reader and a tarot reader together and we start chatting.
For sure.
So, back to you, Wikipedia.
So, I was telling you a while ago that we're nerds.
Oh, yeah.
Besides all this other stuff, we're nerds.
Oh, yeah.
We grew up on Pokemon, we watched all these other animes and all this other stuff. And I used to collect mini figurines of Digimon, among other things. Mm-hmm. And I had one that it looked like an angel, like your stereotypical blonde hair, loads of wings, feathers. It was kind of draped in a, kind of like a toga kind of thing. We'll
go with toga.
Toga. And it's anime, so 9 out of 10 times the blonde angel thing is evil. Don't know why. That's just the way they like to go. So I looked it up because I owned a bunch of figurines that I never saw in a show. I just thought they were cool. And I forget the name of the Digimon, but I was clicking through, and it was literally based on fallen angels written about in the Bible, and it was about different levels of hell.
You know, not for, like, reading or anything.
You know, I was just like, oh, like, click here, and I ended up reading about, like, you know, books written in, like, the ancient days of the church and stuff, and I was just like, what is going on here? I was in high school, I was like...
And so was the true descent of Alex into the witchdom.
Pretty much. That's where it really started. Like, you know, they're not joking when people are like, oh, how do I find out more? Literally pick something and you will find information on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're into gardening, herbs.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it works.
And it's amazing how many different, just generic, everyday topics kind of lead themselves down the rabbit hole into witchiness. Like, it's so easy, and it's a lot of things that people really don't think about.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Nah, so after that, I moved back to Texas. I moved out of California back to Texas, and I don't really remember a lot besides college. So I don't know if I found something or was led somewhere else, but the next thing I really remember finding was a store. And I found it because I was getting a haircut, and the haircut was whatever. It was not the best haircut. But next door in that same kind of area, there was a store called Enchanted Forest. Now, I had never been to a metaphysical shop. I had never been to any kind of witchy store. I had never been to anything like this. The closest I had ever been was rock shops in Vegas or California, you know, and they were just, here's some rocks. It was not metaphysical unless you knew what you were going in for. Like, it was not about that. It was about, hey, rock collectors or people that like fossils or whatever. It was not magical or other than that.
And that's another thing. With us, we actually live in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area, just kind of in that metroplex. So a lot of the shops and stuff that we'll talk about, good?
Better than I thought.
A lot of the shops that we'll be referencing and talking about with some of our witchy stuff is actually going to be from the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. So, you know. A
couple stuff on the other coast, though, just because I've lived on the West Coast for a little bit.
That's been nice.
So I walked in there. It's a good store. Don't get me wrong. I've gotten a couple books there. I'm actually going to bring probably both of those on the channel at some point. One during the runes for sure, because it's one of my favorite rune books that I've read. And then the other book's in storage, unfortunately, so I'll have to go dig for that one. And it was, I don't know how to describe it. It just wasn't super...
It just wasn't your cup of tea?
That's a good one. It was good store, good stuff, good people, you know, they knew what they were talking about. You can ask them in-depth questions. They had a lot of books I've never seen again, because they had a lot of stuff published in the UK. They had a lot of stuff published in other countries that we don't get a lot of.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, like, we happen to have half-price books here in Texas.
Oh,
so
love half-price.
Sometimes we can get stuff like that if someone happens to not want it anymore, and then they basically dump it at a used bookstore. But other than that, our options are like Barnes & Noble, which, bless their heart, but their section is growing thinner and thinner by the day.
Yeah, which that's how you know we're true. Well, I'm from the South, so you're going to hear me probably say, bless your heart or something else.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Bless their heart. They try, but not always.
It used to be better, I will be honest.
Yeah, and there are some stores that are better than others.
For sure.
You just really need to kind of check your own area and see what they have, because sometimes you will find some real gems to read. The
other good thing about Barnes & Noble, though, is that as long as it's something they can still order, they will order you a copy. Like, and it's good to have your membership. Hey, shameless plug.
Yeah, I know. You used to work at Barnes & Noble. You get to do that. But
I did, but honestly, free shipping is not bad. Especially if you like books.
Yeah.
You know, and DVDs. Not a lot of people use DVDs. I know, we're old. Ha ha ha. So funny.
Hi, world.
By 3 months, okay.
Shut up.
Okay, so we found that. So I found that store. I got some books. I got some other stuff. I actually, funny story. I got a book called, it's the one that's in storage. It's called Pagan Feasts or something like that. I took my mom to the store that day.
Okay, let us also state real quick that neither one of us is out of the witchy closet. You're just a little bit more open about your stuff. Just people don't ask.
Yeah, pretty much. Because, I took my mom to that store because I wanted this book. And this book was about $30. It was not a cheap book. It was actually because I had wanted to go to a concert. And I didn't have anyone to go with because you couldn't go.
Oh, yeah.
And and
I forgot about
some other friends couldn't go. Like, I couldn't go alone at the time because my mom was worried about me, and so I was like, okay. And so to basically bribe me out of not complaining anymore, she's like, I'll go buy you that book you keep complaining about. I'm like, okay. So
I'm not gonna argue with you.
we huffed it all the way to, where's that, Arlington?
Yeah.
We went all the way to Arlington. And this, like, kind of, it's not super nice, it's not super sketch, it's somewhere in the middle, but my mom's a really fancy lady, so it was not her cup of tea at all. And we go in there.
Oh, Lord.
They had Book of Shadows, that, like, blank ones that you could write in.
Oh.
So they look like really elegant diaries, kind of, right?
Okay, yeah.
So my mom picks one up.
Oh, I remember this story.
And she's like, oh, what are these? And I was like, Book of Shadows? And she goes, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's where witches write down their stuff. She flings the diary. She was whoosh! And I'm like,
I love how this devolved into Alex story time.
sorry, but I just remembered that story. And I was like, that's right.
I can just imagine your mom like, hey!
Yeah, literally. And I was like, and she starts going on, my mom, so I'm half Mexican on my mom's side. And she's like, El Diablo. And I'm like, yeah, no, not so much. It's not the devil unless you make it about that, you know what I mean? But it's really not about that. Sips tea. But yeah, so like the store, they've got good stuff. And this is another important thing that I feel about metaphysical stores in general, witchy stores, whatever you want to call them, whatever they call themselves. Most of the time, you'll feel some kind of connection. Like,
yeah,
you will feel
it's
right.
Yeah,
Like, you will feel kind of, and hey, your store might be Target, and that's where you feel right. Like, you feel like at peace. Like, you feel something in your heart or soul.
You walk
or
through the doors
something.
and you take a big breath and you let it out.
You take a deep sigh and you're just like, like you're relaxed.
And then you go and do whatever your crap is.
Mm-hmm. Really?
I didn't cuss.
So crap's okay?
We're gonna say it is.
Okay.
Please don't argue with me. Let me have this.
Anyway, we were worried it was gonna be me. It was her.
What are you talking about? Yeah, actually. Okay.
We both were worried about me. Even you were like, you gotta be careful with your stuff, Alex. Anyway.
We're gonna say crap is okay.
Okay. Put in a little honey in there. She's a little, you know.
Gotta sweeten the situation a little.
So around the same time, I found... Okay, so my sister is interesting. She is very religious in a strange sense, but she enjoys the other as well. She has oracle decks. She has, I think, a tarot deck. She has a couple stones. She likes to... So it's not smudging because it's one of those words that it's kind of on the fence of being what's the word? Appropriated?
Yeah.
Because smudging is an actual ceremony, but most people that aren't Native American are just burning some stuff and clearing out the air. It's a little different. Anyway, so she'll buy sage, she'll buy, lavender, whatever, just spirits be gone, she'll just run it through the house and all this stuff.
Your sister spent a lot of her life in Mexico, so I'm sure with the culture and everything, there's a lot, because I know there seems to be a lot of ritual and like superstition and witchiness that's just kind of natural in that kind of setting, especially when you're in a heavy Roman Catholic area.
Yeah, probably. She kind of branched away from a little bit of that just because, so she's mostly Christian, which is a lot just tamer than Catholic stuff. But, so, and then she's funny because, like, my nephew's a teenager, so she'll just buy sprays and hose him down, like, bad energy, be gone! Literally, she's just like, she just hoses him down because she's like, you're crazy. But she lives in Arizona. And while I was there one year, we were looking around and I was like, hey, I'd really like to check out some stores while I'm here. And she had a couple that she had gone to, but nothing really, that clicked with her. And so I went to Yelp or Google or something like that, and I found this store in Phoenix. So if anyone is in Phoenix, check the store out, because this is the store that I felt the most haha in, honestly. Which makes me sad, because we are not in Phoenix, we are in Texas, and it is very far away. It's called, I believe, Fantasia Crystals, because they've swapped their name around, and they've been in Phoenix for, I think, 20 years or something.
And I've seen some of the stuff that you've gotten from that place. They carry some nice stuff, and Alex and I, we like our crystals. That's going to be probably one of the big things that we'll end up talking about with our future videos.
Yeah, I've gotten crystals there. I got one of my wands there. Actually, my first wand I got there.
Oh, yeah.
The wood one. And that was handcrafted. I got, I've gotten other things. I've gotten statues. I've gotten candles, the rolled ones. I've gotten oils.
And it seems a lot of their stuff is handcrafted.
They do a lot of their own handcrafting, which is really cool. And then it's really interesting because part of their store, it's kind of broken up. Part of their store is like more like stones, and they even got some angel stuff in there. And then the other half has voodoo, hoodoo, santeria, all kinds of stuff. Like it's a big old range. And then they've got loads of books, like a whole wall of just books. That again, I've never seen anywhere else but stores like that. And just, you walk in, and they've just been there for forever, and they always have incense going. So, like, the incense is, like, steeped into, like, the carpet and the walls and any kind of hanging fabric. So it's just like...
Okay, and y'all will probably find this out about me. I love incense. I really do. It's so close to my heart.
I like the after effects of incense, like, in a store, but I don't like burning it myself sometimes, actually.
I love burning it myself.
It gives me, like, headaches.
Oh, okay.
Nose aches.
There are some that are interesting, even though I love the smell and it doesn't, like, give me headaches or anything. It makes me feel dizzy.
I get that a lot. But I get that with a lot of instances, so I'm just like, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Fantasia Crystals is still probably, to this day, my very favorite store. Like, you walk in, and it feels homey. Like, it feels good to go in there. Like, even if I go in there trying to buy one thing, I come out with like 80. Like, they take all your money because it's all good stuff, but you still feel good walking in.
That's kind of how you are with most.
This is worse. This is worse than any other store.
Okay, that's kind of scary. But to be fair, you have good taste.
Yeah, I do.
So is that really when you started like getting into like more and more of like the actual witchy stuff, or is it...
Because that's when I got my wand, because my sister was with me when I got my wand, and she's like, "Why do you need that?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, I didn't know. Like, it felt nice in my hand. Like, it just, see, that's the thing about me. Like, when I go shopping for tools, rocks, whatever, I get feelings. Like, I can...
Yeah, I think you get, like, different kinds of feelings than what I do. Normally, when I go for rocks, I also go off of, like, intuition and feel. Mine is more of, like, a heat sensation or a tingling sensation.
Yeah, I don't get any of that.
What do you get?
I don't know. It's kind of like that whole, ooh, shiny, I want it, but it's a little deeper than that, because, ooh, shiny, I want it, I'd be buying entire stores.
Yes. And I have joked with you many times, you were a magpie in a past life.
I accept it. That, and then I think I might have been an otter, because otters have their favorite rock. So, rocks.
I don't know if you can just stand to have just one favorite rock.
I like cuddling them.
I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah. So, that's what I mean, the difference between, like, say, Enchanted Forest here in Texas versus the Fantasia Crystals. Like, Enchanted Forest, good stuff, recommend 100%, but I just didn't click as much as with Fantasia Crystals.
Yeah.
And they're across the country, so that says something right there.
But at least Enchanted Forest was there for you to, like, really, like, get things moving, like,
dive in,
yeah,
basically. And then around the same time, same story, my sister was telling me about Meetup, which I had never really heard of, honestly, if I'm going to be honest. And she goes, I go on there to look for Reiki stuff. So, like I said, my sister's into some of the deep stuff, but it's kind of strange. So my sister was really into Reiki healing, Reiki groups, stuff like that.
Okay.
And she's like, you should look for people that are into this stuff for you, too, in Texas, because I can tell you all I want to tell you about Arizona, but that's not going to help you.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, true. So I signed up for a bunch of groups. Like, I was in one for Denton witches, I was in one for DFW witches, I was in one for Dallas witches. Like,
So many groups.
I was in like 15 different groups. Did I ever go to a single meet? No.
Well, we went to that one with the ecstatic dancing in Dallas.
That was through yoga.
Really?
That was through my yoga teacher, actually.
Oh.
That had nothing to do with any of this.
That's actually really surprising.
I think she's actually, like, Christian. Like,
I have to say, that was, like, one thing that we did together that was several years back, and it was basically, we were on the side of the lake. There was there a little bonfire in the middle? Or was there just a bunch of light?
It was full moon.
Oh, that's right. It was on the full moon, but there was, like, some lights around, but there was, like, nothing in the center, and we were basically dancing in circles for, what, 6 or 7 hours?
Yeah, it was a good minute.
Without stop, like, and it felt like it was over in, like, 30 minutes. Like, time flew by, we were dancing the entire time, like, it was that very primal getting in touch with, like, all of your, I caught myself. Getting in touch with all of your stuff. And if anybody has anything like that around them, I would highly recommend it. I think dancing is one of the best ways to not only connect with your deeper self, but to connect with the divine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll probably mention that later on when I start talking about my own personal, like my lady, my deity that I follow and all that mess.
Gotcha. So I signed up for all this stuff, and I didn't go, mostly because I was nervous. Another key point, if you feel nervous about something, don't do it alone.
Take a friend.
Yeah, so nobody wanted to go with me to anything. I will say, you weren't really into that stuff at the time. You were against it, but you weren't into it.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the thing. I'm one of those people that I will, don't take this wrong, I will try almost anything once just to see. Like, I want to try bungee jumping and, doing hang gliding and all that mess. Like, I'll try almost anything. And I am not a public dancer. I do not like to dance in public. I get, I'm just as shy as you are. We're both introverts.
Mm.
It's not something that we're normally comfortable with, but she has a really good point. If there's something that you want to do, but you're shy or nervous or scared to do it, find somebody that will be supportive, that will go with you. It is the best thing ever, because I think that strengthened our friendship a lot over the years, because I went with you to so many different things, and that's actually really one of the things that I'll talk more about on when I get to my stuff, because that kind of led me to my witchiness, because you were into the witchiness longer, like years before I was.
Yes, it's sort of high school.
Yeah.
But more towards the end of college. So that kind of, now where this kind of segues into is I didn't go to a lot of them because they were at people's homes, and I was like, if something that was weird, like I'm one of those people that will sit there uncomfortably until I have an out, and if I don't have an out, like I'll just stay there, like.
You can't make up an excuse, like, my mom just called, my dog got out. Like, anything.
I'm bad. Like, I don't. This guy at work one time was telling me how girls are, like, really good at, like, making stuff up and making people believe it, kind of. And I've heard of a lot of other people saying,
you are the most straightforward person I have ever met. Sometimes to your detriment. But
yes. It's awful.
You will never really lie to anybody.
I can't. It's awful.
You can sometimes be a blunt object, but I would never accuse her of being anything other than direct and truthful.
Yeah. I'm one of them blunt people that's like, I'm one of them blunt people like to complain about. I'm one of those.
I would agree with that sometimes. I'm the other end of the spectrum. I am a people pleaser. I'm incredibly polite and nice, and I will do pleasantries and try to make small talk. And
well, I think part of my stuff comes from people pleasing, though.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. It's just we take it a different route where I will tiptoe and dance around a topic, or sometimes fib a little, rather than sit there and be just outright uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I will make up a fib to go home if I have to.
So if you're good at that, then maybe do whatever you want to do.
Right.
But, so like I said, I didn't go to a lot of them because they were at homes or private events or something. And I was just like, I don't want to go alone. When something happens, just no. You know, you want to believe, you want to have faith in other people, but that's not safe to do it all the time. So I finally went to one, also in Arlington, that was a store opening. So I was like, that's public. You know, I can just check out what they have, and if there's other people there, I can maybe say, hey, I'm really shy, but I don't know.
Yeah, but you're really good about chatting to people in stores and, like, finding it. That's how you've met a lot of other people, like, in the witchy community around here. Like, isn't that kind of how you met,
the group? See, okay, so that's where we're getting. We're getting to that group. So, the store is Hearth Wisdom, and great store, good stuff. The day I went, it was brand new, so they just had, like, a couple tables and stuff, and the guy was really friendly. Now it didn't really, like, click like the one in Arizona, but it clicked a little better than previous attempts. So I was like, okay, so it was just still in Arlington, which is a good drive from where I'm at. So I was just like, okay. So I went once and I was like, yeah, I'll go back because they had classes and stuff. They offered classes, they offered, you know, kind of meetups, but it was a public space. And I was like, oh, well, that's a totally different game than going to someone's house.
Right.
So I started going to that, and then I took somebody who was a friend at the time, and that's how I started getting to be friends with everybody, because he was very chatty.
He's very outgoing.
He is very outgoing.
He's a Leo.
He's a Leo, rising sign Leo. So, he's a double Leo. He's all Leo. Yeah, so, imagine that.
He is a forest fire.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was, you know, he's just very talkative, very kind of in your face. So he started talking to people at the store that were there all the time, because I'd take him to, like, herbs, so they'd have lessons on herbs, lessons on rocks, lessons on just about any topic, honestly. You just pick and chose what you went to. There was also events for food, like, they didn't call them blots at the time, but it was kind of like, anytime a holiday would come up, they'd have come celebrate, like, Yule or something, and then it was a potluck, so everyone would take a dish, or sometimes it would just be like, oh, we're having a dessert night, and everyone would take a dessert they really liked. Those were nuts, because it was just, you're sitting there for like 2-3 hours eating nothing but, like, pies, cake, and cookies.
Oh, be still my beating heart.
And then everyone had water or tea or whatever, but still it was just like, but yeah, so we became more and more friends. We'd go to more and more classes, yada yada yada. It started, the classes started going to one of their houses, but at that point I knew them. It was safe for me to go to their house. I knew who I was meeting. I knew who I was going to be seeing there. And I trusted the leader to basically watch out for anyone that didn't need to be there. And as a matter of fact, she did kick out several people for being basically creepy towards other members.
Yeah.
So she knew how to handle her business. And then that kind of just wraps up most of it. That just kind of, and then I moved to Vegas. So I kind of lost my group, because you can't do group stuff if you're not in town.
Yeah, and they were already a full coven at that point. So
yeah, so I just, you know, it's just harder to talk with people and stuff, you know, over the internet. It's not the same. It's just not the same.
And that's the thing. We're both solitary practitioners. You've done a lot more, like, just group stuff than I have. I'm almost a sole practitioner. I really don't involve anybody else when I'm doing my stuff of any kind. And that's just because, I guess leading into my stuff, I'm a fairly new witch. I've only been doing this for, I'm going to say a little under a year, but I've kind of been introduced to this from a very, very early age. Fun fact, I was born and raised in the South in Arkansas. And if I ever...
Were y'all Baptist? Or what were you?
Yeah, my family is hardcore foot washing Baptist.
Sorry, foot washing.
Yeah. So anyway, like, I love my family, but they may be superstitious, but they are not okay with anything of a witchy variety. And that kind of, I was a very sheltered child growing up. I was sheltered to the point where my friends' parents used to call me Rapunzel. I lived in a tower. And, you know, due to that, I didn't really interact a lot with other people from different backgrounds. Like, there were a lot of things that were just alien to me. My one real saving grace was the fact that early on, I want to say in first grade, I had a girl that made friends with me. And she was my best friend up until, I want to say, like the freshman year of high school. Like, we were best friends, we were tight-knit, we were almost like sisters. And the reason why this is all important is the fact that her mom was a Wiccan. Like, she was a witch. That was her practice. Now, I never, you know, being a little kid, I never had the forethought to ask her or, you know, really get much more into that, other than one of the things that really started me out and just kind of planted the initial seed was the fact that, I don't know why, but when I was a kid, I had this curiosity about it. I guess maybe because it was so different than, you know, Christian Baptist that I was raised. So I would always ask her all these questions about, like, some of her stuff. And one of my favorite memories was the fact that she would go to what I now know was her mom's grimoire or Book of Shadows. And she would copy some of the information, like, about just general stuff about, like, deities and herbs and, like, the sun and the moon and stars. And she would write it down on notebook paper for me and bring me, like, loose leaves of just written notes. I remember a couple of them were, like, she had brought me stuff specifically on different goddesses, and I remember there being, like, Artemis and Athena and I think Aphrodite. So I wonder if her mom was, maybe she followed just the Greek pantheon. I don't remember that much because we're talking, I was like 8 or 9. But it's really funny looking back how that was a thing. And I didn't really recall a lot of that until a little bit later on, when I really started to get more and more into this stuff. But I think after that, because a lot of things happened, there was a falling out, and I lost touch with her when I moved to Texas in high school. And there are a lot of different variables that kind of led me to the practice that I have now. And I think the other bigger influence is you. I'm telling you, I may have had nothing going for me during high school, but a bunch of really crappy experiences. But, like, going into college, that was, like, when stuff started, like, popping off for me. And it was all because of this one. We've been friends for, what, like 10 years or something?
Yeah, it's 10 years this year.
So 10 years of dealing with this one. And like she said, she's from, like, high school. She's been dabbling. And during college, we became roommates. We just met during a history and humanities class.
An ancient history class. So, hey.
I was a history major for my undergrad.
And I ended up getting a minor in history just because.
Just because. History is wonderful.
It is.
Anyway, I digress. So we met in this class, and for whatever reason, we hit it off. We kept talking, we kept chatting. Next thing you know, boom, we're moving in together when we both went to UNT. Mm-hmm. That's University of North Texas. Ancient history by now. Gotcha.
Ancient history. Dang. Okay.
Finally, I got you.
Okay.
She's normally the punny one. Really bad. Anyway, so all of these times that you were talking about all these different shops and stores that you went to, I was the one that got drugged along. So I was, you drug me out to the Enchanted Forest.
How do you feel about that store? Because I think you went back right on your own at one point.
I did go back. That was actually where I purchased one of my most important tarot decks that I still use today, and that is the generic, the Holy Grail, the Rider-Waite-Smith. Like, that was... I have the Radiant version, if any of y'all care. It has brighter colors and things like that for anybody that doesn't know. But that's actually where I went to get my main deck that I use. I am a very loyal Rider-Waite-Smith user. Like, that is my main thing. And almost all of the decks that I use come from a spinoff of the Rider-Waite. So anyway, I like the store. It has a good selection. You are spot on about the books. They have a great selection of books.
Do they have a good selection on tarot? Because I don't do tarot, like I said. I'm going to actually be learning, actually explain stuff along with y'all. But, because I wouldn't have looked. So did they have a good selection, or did you just kind of get your basic stuff there because it was basic?
That's the thing. When I first went to the Enchanted Forest with you, I wasn't really into tarot at that point. I knew what it was, but I wasn't practicing with it.
Okay.
Going back when I went the second time, I did look a little bit, but I went with that express deck that I was going to get. Like, I went there with a plan. Okay. I like going places with a plan. That's the Virgo in me. I'm a Virgo.
That probably saves you money too.
Oh yeah, my Virgo-ness translates into a lot of frugality. Thank you, blessed
You know
goddess.
what's weird though? Because I'm a Cancer, and they say we're really not frugal, but what's that word? It's gonna kill me now. It's kind of like frugal, but it's not quite frugal. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm bad at whatever that is.
You're very cautious, and to some degree, you are calculating in how you go about things. You assess first. You have a lot of that with your Cancer, but I think when you go shopping, I think your Gemini takes over.
Yeah, I'm the Cancer rising sign, Gemini. Woohoo!
Yeah, and my rising sign is
Scorpio, right?
Yeah, it actually is.
Which is funny because I date a Scorpio Libra, which is kind of funny because he's more Libra than Scorpio. He's not very. I don't know. I feel like Scorpios are just very aggressive, and he's just really not.
I am hurt.
Your underside's pretty aggressive.
I will neither confirm or deny that. Anyway, they had a decent selection from what I remember. Not as big as some of the other selections I've seen at some of the other stores in the area, but it's respectable. But most of their stuff is more staples.
Okay.
Not really any of the more pretty, fancy,
Foofy ones.
Yeah, we'll go with foofy. So anyway, where did I leave off?
Tarot, you bought your deck at the Enchanted Forest, and I was asking how you felt about them.
Oh.
You were saying you didn't quite.
Well, yeah, but rewinding just a little bit. So you're the reason why I've actually got really into all of this stuff, because she was the one dragging me to the Enchanted Forest. She drugged me to other rock shops. I don't know why. When I would go into rock shops with her, I would just stick my hand out and run it over, not even like this, just over. And if I got a hit of hotness, which was surprising the first time, let me tell you, I would just kind of pick it up, or I would just be walking around not doing anything, and all of a sudden, how did this rock get into my hand? Literally, I don't remember how this got here. Okay, I guess you're coming home with me. And that's kind of what started it off. When I first got going, I was addicted to Jasper. Jasper of any kind. Any kind. Oh, blessed Jasper.
Man, no, we went to, we have a small story about Power of the Rainbow here in a second, but one of the times we went, she picked up, I think, 10 different rocks. And we kept asking him, the owner, and he goes, that's Jasper. That's Jasper. That's also a Jasper. 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 Every single rock she picked up was some kind of variation of Jasper. It wouldn't say Jasper in the name. It'd be something else. And we'd be like, what's this? And he's like, that's a Jasper. I was just like, do you need some Jasper?
Apparently I needed some grounding, okay?
Is that what Jasper's for? Yeah. I thought it was something emotional.
My biggest thing is like red jasper, which is root chakra, very grounding.
Yeah.
So anyway, shameless plug. If y'all are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and y'all need a rock shop, go to Power of the Rainbow in Arlington. They are fantastic. They are my go-to rock shop. I love them. I've been going there for years.
She knows way more than I do.
I love them. And they have never steered me wrong. It's a mom and pop shop. They know their stuff, especially if you get the guy. Mm-hmm. I love him. He's got a great sense of humor. But they know their stuff. They are willing to work with you on some things. And if you start going regularly, they will treat you well. Mm-hmm. Like, there is a reason why I've been going to them religiously for years.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, but so we're gonna tell a little anecdote here about how we found Power in the Rainbow.
Oh.
So I didn't remember this till way later, but I had seen their name in a list of metaphysical shops because he is a rock store. But when you go pick up a piece of jasper or whatever, it'll tell you good for meditation, good for heartbreak, good for whatever. It'll actually tell you a metaphysical definition, not just this is jasper. It came from a river. Buy it, please. Like, it doesn't just say that. Like, it has more to it than that.
Yeah, they have really good explanations and descriptions of all of the rocks in the store, and when you buy something, you automatically get a little pamphlet that has a list of
a bunch of the rocks.
The major, like the overarching, the big ones, and it's like a 4 or 5 page.
Yeah, it's a good
pamphlet. It's a good. I still use it for quick reference.
And then they label everything, so if it's not in the pamphlet, you still have a way to look it up and get help.
They're wonderful.
But so they were on the list, but she was moving to Arlington, and we were starving, and we were moving furniture, and it's Texas, it's humid, the weather here is kind of gross. Anyway, so we're looking a little shabby, and we're like, where can we eat that's not gonna kick us out looking shabby like we are?
I know.
And so, we're looking for something not too expensive. We're also, broke kids, just got out of college, we didn't have a lot of money going on. And we found this Italian place, Moni's. Good food, by the way. So if you guys need Italian food, this is delicious.
I feel like this is just one giant
plugs for all the things.
We're gonna go through the entire video, and it's gonna be nothing but shameless plugs for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If y'all are in the area, y'all are gonna know where to go by the end of all of this.
Yeah. Even if you're coming to visit, like you got family in Dallas, and you're like, what the heck am I doing there? You got some places to visit. Mm-hmm. If you're not into like the Cowboys or whatever, which we're not. Anyway, she lived by the stadium, didn't know whose stadium it was.
I knew whose stadium it was. I just didn't deem it with an acknowledgement.
She says that now. Anyway,
let me tell you this: living right by the stadium sucked because anytime there was any kind of event, they shut down the roads. Try going anywhere in one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the state, if not the country, and not being able to use a freaking road.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Moment over.
But so we're there and we eat, and then we happen to notice there's a store next door or 2 stores down anyway, called Power of the Rainbow. And we look at each other, and again, did not remember that that's what it was originally, and we're like, okay,
I had no clue.
So we're like, okay, so this could be like a kindergarten store, something for like small children to kind of get babysat, or like a little daycare center, or it could be a strip club, or like a gay bar, something like that, because rainbows,
Either that or like gay fashion. Mm-hmm. That would have been fabulous.
Yeah, so maybe, like the big debate was, is this a place that caters, or what is this place? So we end up walking in, and we're like, oh, rocks. Not what we thought.
Best surprise ever, and almost all of our like go-to places are places that we just fell into.
Pretty much.
From happenstance. And it works out for us.
Mm-hmm.
We have some kind of magical whatever of whenever we go out together and we're not looking for something, we find amazing places. It just happens.
Which is awesome.
It is.
So, back to you.
So anyway, going to all these stores with her was kind of like when I started realizing that there was a greater world outside of whatever I was doing with my family. And at that point, I had started kind of phasing away from Christianity as a general, but I still kind of kept with it because anybody that grew up Christian, you know, it is like deeply embedded. It is hard to leverage that out of you. It takes a while to like just wear it away, but it was starting. So I would say, like, even before all of this, I was superstitious. I came from a superstitious family. I mean, I know. I'm about to say, like, if I get a shiver up my spine, I still say someone's walking over my grave. Like, I'm superstitious and I always have been, and I've always believed that there was greater things going on in the world than just what we can see or know. You know, things outside of just conventional religion. And I think that the more that I spent time with you and the more that we went to all these different places, I think the more, like, my mind just kind of... and that kind of kept on until, like, a year ago, I had my great... I'm going to say a dam broke, and I just finally hit my breaking point, and all of this stuff, it just kind of flowed away, and I was like, okay, I'm finally going to stop caring about what everybody else wants me to do and what I think I should do, and I'm just going to go with what actually speaks to me. And so I started just the basics, I started trying to practice mindfulness. I started trying to go through walks in the park, just enjoying and breathing in nature, just trying to find my roots again. And I think that's really when things started kicking off for me. And y'all are probably going to hear, and I'm probably going to have plenty of videos about this moving forward. But within a very short time, I wasn't looking for deity. I wasn't looking for the divine. I was not looking to replace what I had just walked away from. I just wanted to get in touch with my spirituality. And I got picked up by divinity and grabbed by the throat and just shook me. I was like, okay, I'm listening. We'll just roll with it for now. And so I'm actually a daughter of the Morgan. I would joke whether I want to be or not, but she wouldn't be happy with that. But I love her. She is my lady, and I will probably talk much more about her going into the future. But I would say that all of that was really kind of what got me to this point, and the fact that, just like you, I was heavily influenced by like what I was watching, what I was reading. It is a small miracle growing up in such a staunch conservative Baptist family. My mom actually let me read almost whatever I wanted. I don't understand it. Yeah, she would let me read about witches. I remember reading a book when I was in middle school or high school it was the history of witchcraft. Now it was a children's book, so it wasn't heavy duty, but still the fact that she let me read that, and the fact that she allowed me to continue being friends with my childhood friend, even knowing that her family was Wiccan, because that friend's mom actually worked with my mom. They were co-workers, and they had that discussion when she found out that I was becoming friends with her daughter I'm allowed to be friends with her daughter, just she will not try to influence me in any way, just that she would not talk religion to me. Mm-hmm. But that's still knowing my mom, that was a really big, looking back on it now, I am really impressed and really surprised that she allowed that to happen. And I think all of those things, along with the fact that I was basically allowed to read whatever I wanted, and a lot of the books that I was reading they had multiple deities. They had gods and goddesses, pantheons. They had witchcraft, and I loved anything and everything supernatural. I don't know if this was typical growing up, but I went through the major phases of dragons, werewolves, vampires, but believe me, that was before the Twilight hype. not my thing. Anyway, yeah. So really, I was into everything supernatural. I thought it was amazing, and even now, I'm a huge fan of Supernatural, the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the key series that I read growing up, I think I was probably late elementary, early middle school, was the author Tamora Pierce. She has several series that are amazing, and almost all of hers involve some kind of supernatural or magic, and her world actually features very well thought out, well-rounded a pantheon that stretches across most of her series that she has. And I think that was probably a really big influencer for me. And just, other things like that. But I think that was mostly it. So that's really kind of the story of, each of us kind of giving you a little bit about our background, kind of how we got to where we are now, our influences. I think both of us would describe ourselves as eclectic.
Yeah, for sure. Little mini side note. One of the very first books I picked up was by Silver Raven Wolf. We'll get to that later. And different video, but
to be announced.
Yeah, but the thing, everything's grain of salt. Grain of salt will be said on this channel every video.
This is such lovely tea, by the way. This is Turmeric Bliss by, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like Tazo or Tazo.
I think it's Tazo. Basically, it's like the stuff, like it's the brand they use at Starbucks, actually, I think. And what I was drinking all day was that. Probably backwards, I don't know. It's alright.
Yeah, we'll roll with it.
It was actually really spicy. Like, I could feel it in the back of my throat.
Really?
Like, I'm just like, I kept trying to, not cough.
It smells so good, though.
It smells really good. Okay, so, but, oh, shit.
Oh, crap.
We just killed my iPad. That's okay. Oh, there's a red light.
It took you that long, huh?
It's not really a light. Anyway, but one of the good things about her book, in this sense, was one of her very first chapters kind of broke down different types of witches, and right away, like the ones that struck
a chord with
yeah,
them.
that kind of just stood out to me. There we go. There's the word. Stood out. One of them was the eclectic. One of them was solitary practitioner. Hearth kitchen, green witch. Like a lot of other things, kind of.
She has a really big green thumb. Like when we were living together in college, y'all should have seen our front porch.
Our balcony had a small garden on it.
Small.
It would have been bigger if we had more space.
You had at least 3 or 4 proper large size rose bushes in containers out on our front porch, along with everything else that we had, and your small army of cacti.
And poor succulents.
I know. You have the heart of a green witch.
Yeah, so but again, eclectic and other things were kind of you're a pish posh mishmash of all this other stuff, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Because
I liked too much of everything to be one thing. So, yeah, kind of what that went through.
Yeah, and kind of the same thing with me. Like I said, I already mentioned that I'm eclectic and I'm solitary. But as we start doing our videos and we start talking back and forth, I think you're going to see a really big difference between the two of us and how we think and how we operate and kind of how we approach things. And I think that's going to be a really great thing for our videos, is the fact that you are much more of a black and white structured thinker. And it's the way that you approach things in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I will admit, going gray is sometimes painful.
And even though the way that I am in normal life is very black and white, the way that I actually approach spirituality is very gray. I live in the vortex of fluxiness. It's everything and all. It's all or nothing. It's it's like the black and the white and the white and the black, and it's just everything. And that's just kind of how I operate. I just go with whatever I feel, and I'm kind of a big follower of the idea that you will feel or know what is best for yourself. Always trust your inner knowing.
Mm-hmm. No,
and
for sure.
And I think that's kind of what, like, I'm a mix of just about everything. I only pick up what resonates with me, and I do not hesitate to toss the rest out the window.
Yeah, for sure.
What's with the pause?
Sorry, just because I remember the first time we were talking about, I forget what it was. I think it was days of the week or color magic. We were talking about something that's pretty structured, and she was like, I don't think I like that. And I was just like, that's just how it is. Just don't do it then, I guess.
Just because that's how it is doesn't mean that's how I have to do it.
I was just like, that's why I paused. I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, but she's right. I am very quick to just, I'll throw the cookbook out the window and just start mixing shit. You're gonna have to bleep
done it again.
We're gonna have to bleep that one.
Oh, not a bleep yet. You're killing me.
Okay, so moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Excuse her potty mouth.
Sorry, YouTube, please don't get on to us for this. We're new.
Right. Maybe it's like a rated R movie or like a PG-13. You can like drop one, and they're not gonna get on.
This is gonna be a really long video.
Knowing us, we're probably gonna have to be filmed because this is already pushing an hour.
Oh my god.
So
we're gonna have to do all this again.
Probably, yeah.
Shit. Well, good thing it was a test run.
Yeah.
But actually, once we get going, it's not too bad.
Yeah. No.
I still feel like I'm being viewed though.
Right. But,
sorry, didn't mean to exclude y'all.
Right. But I mean, I think the only thing left to really kind of put out there is kind of our schedule. And that's also good, so we can know kind of where we can go with it.
And some of the things that we're looking at doing here in the future, which we may actually want to put at the beginning of the video before we start going into our life story.
Maybe.
Because we may have lost some people by now.
They're like,
y'all are too long.
They don't shut up, do they? That's all what people are thinking.
But we're thinking right now that we'll regularly be doing at least one tarot video every other week. We're gonna go with, what was it, Tarot Tuesdays?
Tarot Tuesdays, yep. And then I'm gonna do my runes, which I was like, I like little anagram things, and I was like, Futhark Fridays, because I work with the Elder Futhark. I don't work with other rune sets currently, but yeah, so it would be alternating weeks probably. Mm-hmm. So it's twice a month. Every week basically has one or the other video. Anything besides that is gonna be
at our leisure, I think. At
our discretion, pretty much.
We're just gonna go with how the wind takes us and what grips your soul, Alex.
So yeah, we're speaking of being eclectic, we're gonna be an eclectic channel. Yeah. We're probably gonna talk. Our tarot rune videos are probably gonna be our longer videos. Because we want to go deep. Like, those videos are going to be for people that really want information. We're going to have links. We're going to leave books. We're going to talk about where to get more information besides what we're just yapping at you. Mm-hmm. And this is also just, like, something I wish I could have found when I was starting, too. Just someone that had done it, that could talk to me, and I wouldn't have to just dig for my own information, basically. This is us digging and then leaving you information to also dig on your own.
Yeah, basically. So this is just as much us teaching ourselves and then hoping that it'll make y'all easier by trying to provide it for y'all as well. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go based off some of what we know, what we're good at, what we have experience with, and the rest of it is just going to be us exploring with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I said earlier, when you go do your tarot stuff, I'll be like learning there with everybody else because I'll have no clue what she's talking about.
So, like we said, the big ones are going to be tarot and then runes, alternating weeks, then other topics as it, as the inspiration strikes us.
Yeah, we're going to do...
And then probably we're going to be doing a lot of crystals.
Yeah.
That is...
Stones, herbs, probably, other plants. Like, I just found out in my herb book that you actually can get wolfsbane.
Really?
Yeah. I really want one. They're really pretty. They're actually really... Yeah, monkshood. It's so pretty. Like, it's this deep blue plum color flower.
Is that one?
It's wolfsbane, but it's literally monk's hood because it's like a little hood.
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Really cute. But yeah, anyway, so it's not all necessarily herbs. There's going to be some other plants thrown in there. And then we're going to talk about books in those videos, things we found, places to go.
Yeah, alternate ways of looking at things and thoughts for kind of, I like the idea of the ways of thinking things from a rune practitioner's perspective and a tarot perspective, because through all of our talks, there seems to be a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, and I find it really interesting, so I hope that y'all will too. And I think really the other ones maybe, I know that I will probably talk a little bit more about my deity just as an informational standpoint, as a way of kind of sharing with y'all. I will keep some things to myself, but I love my lady. I want to share her with you to some regard. Mm-hmm.
Now the other thing she's probably going to be tackling a lot is broom closet.
Yes, I am actually in transition right now. I am moving out of my current apartment and separating from a longtime partner and temporarily moving back in with my mom while I finish grad school and all that mess. Hallelujah, no rent. I had to have my moment. No rent. So yeah, I'm gonna go from having my own apartment, having my altar out and witchy as hell, and like just doing my witchy thing, to going back into the deep room closet. I am going into a room that is like, it's a tiny little box, and it's mostly taken up by bed. I'm gonna have to get creative, and hopefully I can share some of whatever I come up with y'all, because I know witching from the broom closet is kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I've already had a bunch of different thoughts about this, and hopefully some of these things will be really useful for y'all. Witching from the broom closet, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Now then, there was some... and then I do pendulum stuff. I have 3 currently.
You really need to show them the chakra thing. Like this,
that will come up.
That is wonderful. She needs to teach all this. It's going to be great. It's going to be really exciting.
That's one of the fun ones. But then there was something else. Oh! We will do some crafty stuff on this channel too.
Yes,
we
are both really crafty, and I don't want to go so far as to call myself an artistic witch, because I have no artistic talent whatsoever. But I love to make just about anything and everything under the sun, and a lot of it gets incorporated into my practice, and I almost find it to be a spiritual connection to craft and create. Like, I knit, I sew, I do other craftiness things. She does a lot of stuff too, even more than I do.
So, in some videos, even if we're just talking about other stuff, we might be here knitting, crocheting, whatever. Maybe I'll learn to knit someday. We'll see. So, if we pick up a new craft that we think would be sort of interesting, we will throw it on here too. We're just kind of, it's a channel. It's going to be a lot of things.
I already have some ideas for like altar projects, witchy projects that can be useful in practicing. So
cool.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps everything up. I think we covered everything but the kitchen sink.
Right, that was a long video.
That was a really long video. I am so sorry, everybody. But you know what? I think we actually made it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
It took a minute, but yeah. So
y'all have no idea what it was like leading up to actually starting the video.
Jesus. Yeah.
If only there was a blooper reel. But we're probably not going to do that.
There might be. You never know.
Oh, wow. Way to leave the cliffhanger for him.
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
Just a little...
So, this has been Alex and Alara. And we hope you enjoy and stick with us as we go on this journey of this witchy web that we're weaving.
Oh, not bad. I like it.